South Africa and France, folks. I feel like this one was always going to be a real arm wrestle ding-dong battle. Sure enough, it was. I wasn't expecting it to have a couple of red cards, but sometimes that's just the way the games go these days. But anyway, I'm going to go through some key events and stats. You guys can let us know your thoughts on how the game went. If you're in the States and you've missed out on all the action this weekend, which has been a lot of, check out Flow Rugby down in the description. They've got all the games on demand if you want to catch up. So yeah, 30 points to 26. Legit could have gone either way, couldn't it? Like both sides led in this game. For a while though, it looked like South Africa were going to get a wee hiding early on, didn't it? I mean, Faf was hurrying Dupont up early, right? He was trying to get up in his face, which makes sense. You want to be disruptive. He concedes a penalty, 3-0 to France early. France muck up the restart, which is kind of uncharacteristic. But then South Africa lost the ball pretty quickly anyway, so France were able to exit. You know, not ideal play from either side at the start of things, but France are sure enough 3-0 ahead. France are a wee bit lucky on 5 minutes when they almost tip-tackled, I think it was Baille, almost tip-tackled Etzebeth. You could see him just like tipping over, and then I think it was Flament came in and just like changed the balance. Like, no. Do not let that man land on his head. They put him back so he lands on his feet. You could have had more cards if Eben tips over there. So kind of fortunate one. 9 times out of 10, I feel like that one ends up with the guy tipping over. So yeah, they actually put him down properly. Hooray, because we want to avoid as many cards as we can, but we still got 3 in this game. France conceded a penalty at the breakdown not long later, but then South Africa lose their line-out. They were having early line-out struggles, South Africa, which is kind of uncharacteristic. And we had like Oxenchair doing a wee pick and go, getting himself isolated. And yeah, turnover ball for France. And then on the balance of things at that point, I feel like France have had the upper hand, especially with the South African line-out having a few issues. But Pieter-Steph gets red carded for a big shot on Danty when Danty's on the floor. Pieter-Steph's going in for a big old clean-up. He's a bit, what's the word to describe it? Hectic? He just plows himself into it, doesn't he? It's just one of those ones where you needed to, it's hard to tell a guy like that not to just go 100% like full ball all the time, but yeah, it's a red, man. It's a red. The commentary team I had called it red. I thought it looked pretty red, so yeah, man. It was red, and Danty goes off and doesn't come back on. That's the kind of stuff I guess they're trying to protect against. So, yeah, it's an interesting test of the French bench because that's a midfielder they've lost. They don't have a midfielder on the bench unless you want to bring on Jalibert and put Ntamack at 12, which they don't do. They bring on Makalou and chuck him on the wing. Remember, he's more of a loose forward, but he goes out on the wing. I've seen him play on the wing against Japan. Maybe not quite against the team of South Africa's caliber, but he goes out onto the wing. Moefana comes into the midfield, so it's a reshuffle for the French side. South Africa lose their line-out again. France counter-attack, offside from South Africa. They opt for a 3 France. So 6-0, and South Africa got a man in the bed. This is what I'm talking about. I thought it was looking pretty ominous for South Africa. 6-0, you're going to play most of the game with a man down, and then the French go like 8 phases, and Cyril Baille just kind of reaches out and gets a try, all from a Penaud attack where he kind of beat Jesse Creel to the punch. So that was maybe Penaud's like best involvement of the game because he didn't have that much going, I felt. But 13-0, it's looking pretty hairy for the South Africans. I was thinking, man, these guys they could suffer a pretty big loss, but no, they managed to turn things around. Credit to them, it was weird from South Africa. Like they had Willems named at 10, Leroux named at 15, and then Leroux was coming in at first receiver a lot, and Willems would kind of sometimes step in, and then sometimes they would just play off 9. It was kind of all over the shop, but then they settle things down, man. Like Jelonch concedes a more penalty, and they opt for 3 South Africa. I'm like, come on, guys. Colby's not going to kick that. That's miles out, and it's at an angle. But when Jacques Nienaber said they'd been practiced the goal kicking, he wasn't kidding because, like, Willems only took 1 shot. Like, he had Faf shooting a goal, he had Colby shooting a goal, and they were doing a bloody good job of it, man. Like, Colby nailed that one. No way does he get that one over. I don't know how he got the legs on it, but geez, what a kick. What a kick. 13-3. South Africa on the board, starting to look, it's a bit nicer from a South African point of view. And then Alldritt concedes a really soft offside penalty. South Africa maul it. And one of the weirdest tries you'll see, Khaleesi just has everybody bamboozled when he pulls off the side of that maul and just dives over untouched. All of the French guys were looking still at the maul. Nobody had eyes on Khaleesi. It was unbelievable. It was almost like an up your shirt kind of one that nobody knew what was going on. Ntamack was just stood there as Khaleesi just went straight past him. It was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. So, South Africa, from kind of being man sent off, 13 points down away from home, maybe dead and buried, 13-10. 13-10, properly back to game on. And then there's some injuries, man, like Bongi and Bonambi goes off, Atonio goes off, although he does come back on later. Flament goes off, Baille goes off, so a lot of the French guys going off. Some of these guys, like Baille, I remember haven't had that much rugby. Quacker Smith kind of uncharacteristically dropping a restart certainly didn't help things. That, with South Africa having all that momentum, that's kind of the one where you need to continue things on. You need to secure the restart, get a nice exit, and continue that pressure. But by him dropping that one, it puts the pressure back on them. I mean, this scrum, though, with the replacement props, remember a debutant prop for France as well, and Wardi, gets South Africa that kind of free exit. So Quacker Smith is kind of, he can thank his front rowers for getting him out of jail there. But before halftime, they still concede a penalty at the breakdown to South Africa. So we go into the sheds at 16-10. 16-10, like it's been a half of two halves, hasn't it? South Africa kind of stormed back into it after the shock to the system early. They've had more possession, 54% of the box, territories 50-50, but they've also knocked it on 6 times to 2. The lineout's not been operating that great, so you feel like, man, if South Africa, they've had a 300-plus run meters to 167. If South Africa can hold on to the ball, you never know. Penalty counts even at halftime. Start of the second half, Colby slots another penalty. Sia Khaleesi was just powering in at the breakdown, wasn't he? That guy's such a unit. I think that was one on Makalu. When Makalu secured a high ball, Khaleesi just drives over and sends his guys going forward. Like, good to get you guys just that kind of momentum. So it's 16-13, 3-point game. South Africa, though, later on conceded a penalty at the maul themselves. Tough kick, but the French nail it. So it's kind of a bit of a tit for tat, 19-13. And then another kind of key moment in the game. Dupont and Colby contesting a high ball, although Colby gets himself in the air. Dupont eyes on the ball, but very much on the ground. In the scheme of things, not really in the most realistic positions to catch the ball. Kind of like Pieter-Steph, I don't think he does anything intentionally. Well, I know that doesn't matter, but Dupont puts Colby on his head, and you can't do that, man. You can't be tipping up the man on his head, however it happens. Like that, and Wayne Barnes gives him a red. So, man, we're 14-14. I thought they were both pretty fair reds, to be honest. The way the game has been reffed, as long as I've been watching it in recent years, seems relatively consistent. So, yeah, man, 14-14. And then that, I think, gets the South Africans' tails up a wee bit, eh? Dupont, there didn't come much more kind of key players to a team than Dupont for France, right? South Africa maul it. They get advantage. What do? They go again. Eventually, after the maul goes for the third time, the South Africans go right. Willie gets it to Kurtley Arendse. He goes over for the try on 51 minutes. And Faf de Klerk with the most confident sideline conversion. He hit it and just buggered off because he was like, I got that. He nailed it. South Africa's in front, 20 points to 19. Did not see that coming. And then Woki gives away a penalty on 54 minutes. Real soft offside penalty. Faf nails that one too, 23-19. I'm starting to think the French maybe not used to being under this much pressure at home. Maybe starting to creak a wee bit. But then it's one of those ones where you just need that one little bit of momentum, like a poor kick from Willemse sends the South Africans back down their own end, results in a French penalty, so it's back to a 1-point ball game, 22-23, and that can be kind of costly. But then South Africa are able to get one back when Makalu gets penalised for, was it Arendse that tackled him? And he gets back up after being tackled. The crowd did not like that one one bit. The crowd hated that call because they were saying he was not held, I guess, basically. But yeah, the boos ring out through the stadium. But Willems nailed that one. So honestly, some guys who we're not used to seeing doing goal kicking at all, or not used to seeing kicking well, nailed their kick. So 26-22, it's like 15 minutes to go. What are France going to do? Well, they end up going for a big old maul. And unfortunately for the Springboks, Dion Fourie gets yellow carded for interfering at that maul. And they are back to playing a man down. There's got to be a bit extra space out there now because we're 14 on 13. 3 guys off the field. France opt for touch, which is kind of going for the jugular because, you know, they are behind by 4 points. But France somehow miss an uncontested line-out. I swear that's just the pressure. France are not usually missing that one. But they get another chance, 72 minutes. They get advantage again. They go for touch again. This time they don't maul it. They try a little move. Luku to Moefana. He goes close. And then Creel's offside. Just his hand is in front of the line. Like, that's real basic stuff. You just need to get your hand on the line, please, Jesse. But either way, with the advantage, the French are able to go over through Falatea. My commentary team did not mention it one bit. I had Raul Nugent and somebody else. They had to be looking at double movement, right? I would have thought so. They look at it for a long time because there's a communications breakdown with the TMO. I couldn't really hear what the conversation was, if anyone could. But I wasn't sure if it was a double movement. But eventually, after looking at it for an age, they end up giving it. And Ramos uncharacteristically misses the kick. So 27-26. Not long to go. But still, one kick's going to decide the game potentially. And then 76 minutes, LaRue gets pinged for a full pass. It'll kind of look flat. But, yeah, he didn't like that call. I don't know. Either way, that ends up with South Africa being down their own end. There's a scrum. There's a penalty. It's a Ramos shot. 30 points to 26. It's pretty much game. South Africa still got a chance to come back and go score a try to win it. But Moefana wins a penalty. Not a penalty. He wins a turnover at the breakdown. And, yeah, that's all she wrote. So, pretty crazy game. You get a former World Player of the Year red carded. A guy who's no doubt going to be a future World Player of the Year red carded. A couple of tries apiece. Decided on kicks, essentially. Run meters 267 to 450. So the South Africans do a lot more of the running. South Africa edged the possession, but France edged the territory. It's pretty even, to be honest. Clean breaks, though, was 4-2, and that's in the French favour. So often when they did get their runs going, they were a little bit more able to just generate that kind of X-factor ball. Also, turnovers conceded 12-8 to the box. It's not a number you want to be leading. Sometimes just lacking that little bit of clinical edge. Same with the line-out, like 15 from 18 for the Springboks. It's just kind of uncharacteristically low, but their line-out's not been that great all year. It's been okay without being like, you know, back in the World Cup 2019, it was phenomenal. So just not quite at that level. The French in comparison to 10 from 11, which is more like what we're used to seeing from the old Springbok sides. Tackling percentage for both sides, 87. They make a similar number of tackles, 95 for the French, 89 for the Boks. Penalty count's pretty even, 12 for the French, 11 for the Boks. Individuals, man, Makalu comes off the bench, 67 metres, 2 clean breaks, beats a defender, wins a couple of turnovers. Pretty sure he wasn't expecting to play like, 60-odd minutes on the wing. Woki, 10 from 10 tackles, real busy, just trying to make himself a nuisance with the box kicks and whatnot, getting really involved. Aronsa, 82 metres, gets his try. Colby, 4 defenders, beaten 61 metres, kicks a couple of penalties before he goes off, but he doesn't come back on either. Both these guys that were the victims, if you want to call it that, of the red card incidents didn't come back on. Mostert, 10 from 11 tackles, or he conceded a couple of penalties. Some crazy stuff. I saw a French fan with a cigarette in the ground. Are you allowed to do that in France? Are you allowed to smoke at the ground? You haven't been able to smoke at a ground in New Zealand for a long time. You got to bugger off out of the stadium if you want to smoke. And we had Uini Atonio doing the translation for Jelonch at the end of the match, the post-match interview, and he dropped the big old F-bomb. So, a bit of everything. There you go, folks. I am going to go and watch Italy take on Australia now. Bloody Raul Nugent spoiled the result for that for me. So that kind of sucks. Thank you, Niall. Ryle, not Niall. Raul Nugent. Don't spoil the result, man. If you're going to mention the previous results, give us a warning. Not everyone can watch all the games live. Anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts on this one, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.